Chairman Samaras. Counsel Leary.
Here.
Counsel Milonazo.
Here.
3 present. Right. Jane, on behalf of the council, I want to welcome you here. Today's topic is be about the bike trails. For our constituents, Jane, many people who are avid bike riders know about the trails, where the trails are. But I think many of our constituents that would use them on weekends or possibly really are not sure where the trails are, what's been completed, what hasn't been completed. So if you can give us a little bit of an overview. And we also have the city manager here to talk about the entranceway at Jarvis, correct? Do you want to start, Mr. Manager? Probably.
Sure, thank you very much. This will be a very brief report because not a lot has gone on, but Christine McCall, who's taking care of that, assigned to that issue, could you just give a brief explanation to the subcommittee what's going on with the bike path by the Jarvis Volkswagen?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Manager. For Jarvis to recreate a parking lot in that area, they would need to go to the Conservation Commission to get an order of conditions. There's a lot of resource areas out there, one being River Meadow Brook, potentially wetlands, and they are in a flood zone. And then the applicant will also have to go in front of the planning board for site plan review for the creation of a parking spot that we assume will have more than 4,000 square feet of pavement or 14 parking spaces. They have not applied. Both boards meet twice a month with submittal deadlines about a month in advance of each public meeting.
So has there been any discussions about the potential for access for the bike lanes at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In doing a parking lot, I understand there's a certain square footage. If you reach that square footage, you then have to put impervious paving, I guess, in order for the water to drain properly. Is that something that they're going to have to do at that site?
Yes, definitely part of the site plan review is a stormwater management that is reviewed and approved by our city engineer, but also as part of the notice of intent that they'll have to file with the Conservation Commission, there is a stormwater component that you would have to meet before you could get an order of conditions issued.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. Manager, any questions we might ask further about the trails? I'd like to wait till Calvin, unless you have a statement.
Yeah, I just will let you know that as they apply for these permits in the future, we'll keep you apprised as to what's going on. I'm sure more discussions relative to the bike path will come about during those hearings.
Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge Councilor Mercia. Thank you. Jane, what do we got?
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about the trails that at least the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust has been involved with. I totally recognize that as the council changes over, and I've been with the trust for 20 years now, and even our board has changed over time, and it is really important to keep everyone apprised of certainly our mission and goals and how we're moving ahead. What's our vision for what we'd like to see happen with the city's resources, natural resources. So to that end, I pulled together some materials looking at sort of where, and I'm going to focus primarily on the connection with the Concord River Greenway and the regional trails, because that's, I believe, where this request really came from. And I'd be happy to talk about other trails too, if you'd like me to. But let me back out in the big picture. And first of all, there's the Bay Circuit Trail. That's been a project that's about at least 50 years in the works, and encompasses 200 miles over about 50 towns. And there are only a couple of remaining gaps, and Lowell is one of them. And for several years, advocates in the area have asked about the connection between the Bruce Freeman and the Greenway, and I say, well, the Greenway is under construction, so we got to work on that first, because we got to have users on the Greenway to make the connection work. So that's sort of been our focus, and then this issue came up and brought everything to the forefront. Behind that, though, have been several city plans that have have discussed this connection between the Bruce Freeman Trail and River Meadowbrook, or Bruce Freeman Trail and the Lowell Regional, the LRTA terminal, or the Bruce Freeman and the Greenway. And I have for your reference tonight, because I know it was mentioned several times, and it's not easy going back through old plans, so I've copied the pages from those 3 plans just so you have the reference. I'm not going to go through them, but just so you have the reference from the master plan, the open space plan, and the air city plan to see those specific references. Because I just think it's important to carry that history forward. Those were plans that either the council voted on, people were aware of, and I just want to make sure that people will still keep that history out there. And then I have a couple of maps connecting. So would you mind if I shared
No,
those
please
documents?
do.
And then I can go over
Yes, please do.
the panels that I have.
Thing is, you're going to have to turn the mic towards you.
Did you get this side of the room? Did you get this side of the room for the councilors? Oh, I just do that. All set, but just leave something here for. You just need 3 of those.
So this one?
Yeah, right here for Danny.
All right.
And then
Okay.
Please grab a mic, take a mic, and
Thank you.
it's awkward, but it works.
All right, great. So on the handouts that I gave you, there's one that's double-sided. Okay. And then there's another one that's single-sided. That's color. So let's look at that one first. That single-sided color one is from the master plan. And I think that I pulled that out because I think that really most clearly shows the connection between the Bruce Freeman Trail and the Greenway. Is that it's a green line. So that's directly from the city's master plan. And I'm going to use that a little bit. I think I think that would be a great resource going forward. So then, looking at the next double-sided map, I know that there were some questions about connections to the regional trails. So if you're looking at the one that has a green bar across the top on that double-sided page, there have been questions about how would this connection under the connector with the Bruce Freeman Trail connect all the way to where the Greenway is at Lawrence Street. Okay, there's 2 options on that map, and one is basically a road walk, but it does go through the city cemeteries. It can go by Kerouac's grave. It actually goes through more open space than you think. The other one was following along River Meadowbrook, and that would have come out of the Air City plan. That's not really feasible at this point. That's a really long-term vision. So it would really be a road walk, and there are plenty sections of the Bay Circuit Trail around the state that there are a few like that are road walks. It's meant to be a multimodal trail. So that's that connection. And then on the other side was actually done by members of the Lowell Bike Coalition, and that's to connect between under the Lowell connector out to the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority terminal. So what's the great asset of going under the connector is that you don't have that many more road miles to pave for bicycling. You've taken all that road mileage out. It's a really direct way to get people off the roads and provide an alternative transportation method.
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The one that you just mentioned that was done by the, on the side of the map, does
Right.
not connect the Concord River.
That's right, that's more like going in the other direction towards
Okay.
the LRTA.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've actually been at the, behind the Target,
Yeah.
at that end of the tunnel under the connector. And what's been neat about that is I've actually seen people come from the LRTA terminal, fold up their bicycle, and go to work on Industrial Ave several times. Or I've seen people coming the other direction, and they have grocery bags, and they're coming from the Shop and Save on the other side of the Rotary, or the Stop and Shop on the other side of the Rotary, walking through, and they're going to work at the Target Plaza. So there's a pathway through there that's used for a reason.
Okay, thank you.
So these are the regional and regional trail connections, and then how we're going to connect them to the existing trails that we're already working on. If I can, I just want to tell you where we're at with the Greenway now. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. I don't want to jump around too much.
No.
I know I'm really kind of throwing a lot of information
I
out.
think at one point, if you can just pull it together so people could, I mean, when you're talking the different trails, it's very difficult for someone that's new to it to pick it up. So if you can just, in a sense, show where these trails would meet, and, even if there's a possible timeline or what you're thinking about a timeline.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I hope this works. So the Greenway, the Concord River Greenway received its first funding in 2000, but it's been a vision for about 15 years prior to that, so really about 30 years now. And I'd say it's probably about half done. There are 3 sections of it that are done and 2 that need to be connected. We've always seen ourselves as more of a partner and a catalyst on the project, bringing the value-added pieces to the trail that are not so easy for the city to do. So, and we learned a lot from the Bruce Freeman Trail in that different funding sources really restrict the amenities that you can put on a trail. So,
I'll be Vanna White.
Vanna Pink for Valentine's Day. So this is some of the amenities that we've been able to add to the Greenway. This is a multilingual sign. It's in 4 languages. Spanish, Portuguese, and Khmer. 3 of them are already up around the city on the Greenway, and 3 of them are in storage waiting for final construction. This was really an all-volunteer effort with the translations done by several different volunteers, and they all sort of look like this, and they're all meant to tie into a curriculum for the Concord River that both the National Park and the Tsongas Center have used as well. So classrooms are going out, teachers are being trained on this as well. Hold that for a minute. This is a little older and not so nice looking because it was from when we opened the Greenway in 2000. This is the Davidson section of the Greenway. This was a brownfield, as you all can probably remember. It had purple ooze, and we were able to work with the city to leverage some EPA funds to get this cleaned up, and the city only lost 12 parking spaces, and we added an entire rain garden along the banks. But what I wanted to show you here are the bird bollards that have been added as public art. There's a text fence that has a long Thoreau quote, and that is mimicked throughout other sections of the trail as well. So there's public art that was built into the trail as infrastructure, so it wouldn't be an added cost to the city in terms of more public art to maintain. So that's why things are built into the bollards and built into the fences, because we're really pragmatic that way in terms of making it realistic. Thank you. So the first 2 sections of the Greenway that were completed were the Davidson section at the Davidson lot across from the auditorium, and then the section up at Lawrence Street. Those were completed the same year, and then this was done the summer before last. This is the section that starts at Jolene Dubner Park and connects to the Centennial Island housing. For me, one of the funnest things about this, the aha moment, the least expected thing, is I never expected so many senior citizens in the city to be using the Greenway as extensively as they do. It has shocked me. When this connection went through, I never imagined that it would be a way for folks to walk back and forth, and they walk back with their aides, and it's a goal for them to get through with their oxygen tank and make it back and forth. And then at the Davidson lot, I ran into Representative Goldman's mother, and she made it a goal to walk all the way to one end and back as well. That's been a really pleasant surprise for me. So this is the section again that was at Dubner Park. You are wonderful, thank you. And this is the current status of the Greenway, okay? So the sections that I've already mentioned are the Davidson lot down here, right in downtown Lowell, the Lawrence Street section here at the Concord, where Lawrence Street crosses the Concord River and the Lowell Cemetery, and then the section in the middle is at Jolene Dubner Park connecting to the Centennial Island housing. The two big gaps that the city really has in finishing this right now, and this design is in process, and it is this National Grid section and this section here at Centennial Island. But the design is moving along really well. This is being funded by park grant funds. It's the state's #1 priority for a recreational trail project. They've really kept it high on their radar. And National Grid has been more cooperative lately in allowing borings to happen. We're working with them. They have cleaned up a lot of contamination on their site, and we're just making sure that where the trail will go, the contamination has been cleaned up. When I say we, I'm very liberal, because really most of the work is being done by DPD. And then this section at Centennial Island, this is really exciting because there are going to be two bridges. One of them will be a pedestrian bridge right across to Centennial Island. It'll be a great way to watch the whitewater rafting activities that happen, and then there'll be a bridge right across to the Centennial Island housing. I really can't stand to see you standing behind that. So this is a really great amenity as well for the Centennial Island residents. And the other thing is that we're connecting this side of the river with this side of the river. And the river has really been a dividing factor. And if you think about it, this side is industrial, this side is residential. And now people from this side with these bridges will be able to readily access this side. You can actually walk all the way up through Fort Hill, down over to Shed Park. There's some really neat open space connections. So this, if you were to look at a diagonal picture between Shed Park, Rogers Fort Hill, the Lowell Cemetery, and then the city cemeteries, it really gets you visually all the way over to Cross Point where the Bruce Freeman is.
But just through you two, I guess, what time frame is a Concord River supposed to be completed? That are our estimated time frame?
So I think the best I could say at this point, and there are folks here from DPD that might be able to clarify it, but the hope at this point is that these two sections can go out to bid together this year.
Okay.
And the state has committed some construction funds, and I'm sure there will be somewhat of a gap. And I know that there's funding in the city's capital plan as well. So this has been a really marvelous project to be a part of. We're really happy we can bring some of that value-added piece. We've also been doing a lot of the public outreach for the city that the city needs to do for its grants. And you know, we really like to see ourselves as a partner, again, bringing those pieces that the city can't necessarily do on its own, and step in and help with negotiations as well. And then this is actually some better pictures of the public art on the Greenway. So it's really meant to be more of an experience and a destination.
In your partnership with the city, do you see anything else that the city could help you, be of assistance to making this work?
Well, on the Greenway itself, I think they're going the extra mile.
Yeah.
I think it's really going really, really well. We have a fabulous designer in Brown and Rowe is the engineering on the team, and they're the folks that designed Boarding House Park and Kerouac Park. And in fact, they're very generous to the city, and just yesterday offered to provide cost estimates for a rehab of Kerouac Park, because they originally designed that, 30 years ago, and we all sat down yesterday and looked at what it would take to rehab Kerouac Park. So Brown and Rowe is very generous to the city, and so that's this phase. So as far as I can answer, let me put this down so you can sit. Thank you so much, Rita. You're hired. Next time I need a Vanna. So as far as before I talk about the section under the connector, there are some representatives here from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and I'll let them correct me if I'm wrong, but they are currently working on, that trail now connects from the border at Chelmsford under, right at Route 3, at the tunnel at Route 3, and goes all the way out to Westford. The next section is well into construction, and you may have seen, there's been a lot of publicity about a new bridge over 2A, and so that will extend to Framingham, which is 25 miles in total. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add as far as?
No, one of the hangups has been the bridge that they do have to cross over Route 2.
Excuse me, if you're going to speak, would you speak at the podium, please? So you can be heard.
No, she's correct in everything she said. I think they're hoping to do a ribbon cutting in spring of 2018 for the section that is Carlisle, Westford, and Acton. And then, because that's well under construction and does include the bridge she's talking about that crosses 2A. And then the Concord section, which is called Phase C, is that's already, the construction bid has already been awarded, construction contract, I'm sorry, has been awarded, and they expect to start construction in this fall. So that will be the next section. That goes all the way into a little slip of Sudbury. And then the Sudbury-Framingham, there's still part of the track has to be purchased from CSX, but their funds are available for that. And as she remarked too, I just want to point out the funds do come from many sources, as well as the amenities and the extras that are added to enhance the trail. But it's been going along quite well, progressing, and the addition of a link to this greenway would be fabulous, because it would be such a stretch to go from Framingham to Lowell. Would be really awesome. And that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Sharon.
We have about 5 minutes, so if you could link that up a little bit,
Sure, I wanted.
and also what support we could do at this particular point.
Okay, so as far as the section under the connector goes, I wanted to let you know that I've been researching some other funding sources as well, and I think there's one in particular called Patronicity that's through mass development. And what they do is they've kind of changed how they fund things, and if you are able to raise $50,000 through crowdfunding, they will give you $50,000. So that's $100,000 towards this trail. This section of the trail is not, it's under the connector would really be a cap kind of project, so you're not digging, it's a straight line, it's, I recognize there will probably be a little bit of a deviation with the easements that are aligned up eventually, but it really is pretty much a straight line and not difficult to identify where the trail would be, and the engineering would not be that difficult. In fact, we could probably look at one of the things that the city could do that would be helpful is to look at the cost estimates for what the cost was to do the Lawrence Street section, because that's probably the closest estimate that we have in terms of what it costs per linear foot. But it'll be really hard for us to go out and look at these funding sources until the alignment is secured. We can't, several of them are sort of arts-related or community development type of grant sources that require there to be ownership access. And so I've actually already started working with the Department of Transportation on access to the walls under the connector, because there's been a lot of interest in the aerosol art, otherwise known as graffiti, but there really is some art underneath there that's pretty phenomenal that we'd like to be able to provide some access for. So there's a longer list of funding sources, but really it's being able to secure the corridor, which means working with Jarvis and walking through the planning board and the CONSCOM, but also then we'll need some sort of visuals, and I think I've seen the city be able to do this with something like what's happening with Kittredge Park now, or just some simple visuals to be able to convey what the project might look like that can be used to help market the project for grants.
So just basically, you need someone to draw a map what it would look like, essentially, correct? Potentially could
A
look
conceptual plan.
like. Okay.
A conceptual plan, and I recognize that's maybe putting something on the plate of the city, but the trust is willing to step in and look at some outside funding sources as well the city may not have access to.
No, thank you for, that's the type of information we need. The city council feels that, especially in projects like this, we're partners in those projects, but the thing is, in order for us to complete those projects, we really have to have a good picture of what the needs are and what we can do at this particular time. So, basically, how would you close out this, at this point?
Well, I hope I've given you a good picture of sort of all the efforts to date and things that have happened both on the trust, the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust side, but also on the city side in terms of wanting these connections to happen. And so, and not only that, but there are a lot of regional partners between the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, the Bay Circuit Alliance, the AMC as well. The Appalachian Mountain Club is very interested in making this connection happen. I just, about 2 weeks ago, sat through a Bay Circuit Alliance meeting, and the AMC has now taken that project over statewide. And so they're looking at one of the last remaining gaps here in Lowell as well. So it's not just the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust or the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail that are trying to make these connections. There are also larger regional organizations. And as you've seen at some of the, at the recent meetings regarding the section under the connector, there's a lot of public support. I was absolutely floored that someone I didn't even know put together a petition that was online to support the project. I had to call them up and say, "Who are you?" And we had a great connection. But I thought it was that means that it's the right kind of project to support when people are coming at it from all different angles and want to see it happen. So, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be able to explain where the project is at.
I want to thank you for coming.
So you need a concept plan from us right at this point. So we got to decide how to fund that and ultimately put that together. Then we can sit down and really talk about dollars and cents and where we need to change it or not change it and what have you.
And I'm not
That's
sure
what you're looking for us right now is a concept plan.
I think so, and I don't think that needs to be something that we need to even go out for additional funding for. I don't think that's anything. DPD can set me right, but I think the city has fabulous in-house folks that have the skills to do that, and it doesn't need to be anything that we need to pay $25,000 for.
Okay.
Jimmy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned National Grid and Centennial Island, and you're working with both of those entities. And you mentioned that National Grid has started to cooperate, if you will, by allowing borings and so forth. As you go further along, will you need to have an easement to go over their property, right of access, proper insurance coverage, both for National Grid and for Centennial Island?
Yeah, Centennial Island they've been really cooperative from the get-go and are really excited to see this happen. And they've provided access agreements right away for the borings. And so we've worked with them very closely between our anadromous fish restoration and the rafting. They've been wonderful. And National Grid has really been supportive since the get-go, but they're a huge corporation, and I understand there are going to be hiccups, and they need to cover themselves as well. So we are, the state is actually working quite, the state and the DEP, and actually the EPA have gotten involved in making sure that all the pieces come together for this, and we have started looking at the initial phases of an access agreement, and we hope it's more of a long-term agreement and not just a license agreement that can be revoked at any time.
Has the DPU looked at it at all, the Department of Public Utilities? Is that something that, would they weigh in, I guess, in dealing with a national grid site?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't think so. I think that, well, at least the DEP and the EPA right now have been because of the contamination that they needed to have mitigated. That's been cleaned up, and they've removed a lot of soil.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Jane, I want to thank you. I mean, your positive attitude certainly is a help to making these projects go, because when you have many entities that are part of the process, you have to have someone who's got, we'll say, the right spirit, the right heart, and the willingness to do the work. So thank you for everything you're doing.
All right, well, thank you so much for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you. Next, we're going to deal with the motion from Councilor Leahy. In his original motion, they request the city manager have the DPD provide an economic report regarding upcoming year report to include information on businesses coming into the city and leaving the city. Mr. Coughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to review tonight the response that came from the DPD Director Diane Trad and Allison Lamy in responding to what started as, I believe, more focused on the downtown and then directed by the manager to enlarge it citywide so that the response could be comprehensive to you. In order to follow more easily tonight, I have divided it into basically 5 neighborhoods and can give you a way to follow that going through. I'll then give you some contributing factors to the success of some of those neighborhoods.
Is your mic on?
It is on. Are you
Okay,
hearing?
thank
Hearing
you.
it now? Not
Just checking.
okay. And I'll be closer. Thank you. And then give you some contributing factors leading to the success of some of the new developments in the city. And then I'll discuss some of the attributes for that are in our control and some of that are not in our control, but we have to deal with in terms of the development for the city. So I'll start the tour in terms of the Cross River area, which is, for those of us that go back to remember Wang Laboratories back at that time, but then had Maycom after that, near our water plant in Lowell. We've had some tremendous resurgence there in terms of companies coming in, and we have to credit the private sector individuals that, are the brokers and do the marketing. I want to credit John Power there for the great job that he's done. And I think that's one of the strengths of the city administration through the manager, that he has worked very good with the private sector to bring whatever you need to bring to fruition to bring companies into the city. At this location up there, we've had a number of companies that have come in, which I'll mention, and not only did they bring some new technologies and some new areas of learning, but they've also developed quite good packages for hiring new employees and bringing them to the city also. So first we have a company called Schmeit and Bachmann. They are a 5-generation company dealing in what was the original Charlie card. And they're making pay systems having to do with fares. They're looking right now to engage the New York transit system now. They've made a bid for that. They have 100 new employees in that location, and should they be successful down in New York, they feel that they're going to double that within the next year. We have a company called Autoliv. That company, provides auto parts on a wide scale. They've actually moved here and brought 220 employees with them. They've taken 120,000 square feet in there. It's very, very sizable. Metro Graphics, a highly skilled printing and also specific solution to communications having to go out graphically. They've created 76 jobs there. They're saying they're going to create another 30 jobs there over the next couple of years. We have rapid microbiosystems, 80 jobs that have been created. They tend to work on developments in microbiology, also the biotech area. We have some more traditional work being done by Two Chefs Catering there, which had started in humble beginnings, now have grown up, and they're doing a great job there. And University of Mass has gone in there with some specialized training, having to do with some research also. In the downtown area, we've brought in 7 new businesses on the ground floors throughout the downtown. Some names that you might notice, Fabiano's, Galena Cafe, Sizzling Kitchen, Gormley's Cafe, Delish Restaurant, and also the Green Spoon Restaurant. And then in addition to that, Tutti Bene down on Prescott Street has changed ownership and has maintained itself in downtown Lowell, even though they've had to, really work against, access and parking and things like that to reach them down around in the back. So it is a business that's developed not only with its retail, but also an online presence and a good following with that. We've also seen our first development of co-worker space in the downtown at 100 Merrimack Street. A developer by the name of Brian Bush has developed this, what had been known and getting common in the Cambridge and Somerville areas, but you don't have to rent a whole suite and have a whole staff with you, and you can be co-hosted both in your conference room, answering the phone and all of that. So that is a first in the city of Lowell in that area. Mixed with that, we have some housing units that have been developed at 24 Merrimack Street. Tom Monahan has done 24 units. There's another company called Podium Data. They're a technology startup that's moved here from another section of Lowell, actually, over to Boot Mills. They have 20 employees, but they're expecting to expand. This was particularly good for us because, we always want to keep the businesses here. And when we talk about new companies coming out of M2T2 or going from some other areas, we always say, how can we keep them in our city? So we feel this was a success in trying to keep them here. The Howe building, changed hands, and there's a company called New England Network Solutions that are moving their offices in there, moving their headquarters, and they're going to also add a restaurant on the bottom floors for that. At the former Lowell 5 site, Visions is, of course, putting that 400-bed dormitory there. That's considered market rate housing and will be taxable. Also, the Sun building itself, we have new market rate condos down there by John DeAngelis, and that's created quite a good feeder system. There are restaurants like the Blue Tellet and whatnot that are really doing well down there as a result of that repeat business and that base. When we start looking at some of these larger companies, we have that Cross River Group, and we have some of the larger ones, like Kronos that we know about. We're starting to see, on the average of these larger companies, these salaries are coming in excess of $100,000 each. And that's quite a good sign for the city to really be attracting these high-paid jobs. And I think that's lending to this desire for some of the market rate residences that you see that are being attracted, especially as you go out along Chelmsford Street down in that area. At Connector Park and Cross Point, we have 240 market rate units at 42 Wellman Street that will be coming online. Maycom itself, right up the street, will be, of course, doing their 50,000 square foot expansion and staying within the city after looking at all kinds of different locations where they could expand and move out. We feel that's a good success, that the city administration and the manager has worked with them in order to retain them in the city. And also, of course, the big news of Kronos taking 400,000 square feet, moving 1,300 employees into the Cross Point Towers. And we know that they attribute their selection of Lowell, when they were directly asked that question by myself, to the fact that they felt that the manager and the administration here and the council were able to respond to them quickly as they did their decision-making throughout their search for new space. And that was a big factor, and number one, they felt it was pro-business, but number two, they got them the information that they needed in a timely fashion.
Just a quick question through you to Kevin. How many folks are anticipated to be working at the Cross Point Towers? I mean, there's going to be like 95% full, correct?
Yeah, it's like 90, in excess of 97, 98%, yes.
Do
I
you know a
don't,
number roughly?
I don't have the full number, but I'll make sure that I get it for you.
Okay, because I'm thinking
Send it.
Kronos is what, 1,300 you said? So that's
Yes.
one tower. So if they're all full, you're coming basically close to 3,000 people at that point, or even more.
I think
But
that, yes, and in fact, in Kronos, in between the time they made their original decision to come to Lowell and the
Yeah.
time they finalized their, all their information, they actually took up more of, in a piece, maybe half of tower number 2. So they
wow.
started with one and took half of number 2 in addition to that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. As we get to another section of the city in the Thorndike Street area, we have, of course, the Thorndike Exchange by Sal Lapoli. He'll be adding 42 market rate rentals there. He has 18,000 square feet of commercial space in there also. He's planning to have 2 restaurant facilities in there, one a high-end restaurant and one more of a casual sports bar type. It's been excellent working with Mr. Lapoli in that his model started out in other communities as being purely residential. He now has added a commercial piece to all his developments going forward, and we believe that there could be opportunity as he builds out in that area for additional commercial space there if that permits. I think that at that point too, I'd also like to bring some attention to the notable infrastructure improvement that's taking place around that development and leading up to Lord Overpass and Hamilton Canal area. Starting from the Lowell connector, you have the 2 on-ramps that are being widened. You have the next series of lights that are being replaced with smart lights and should alleviate traffic jams. You have the addition of a left turn out of Highland Street coming onto there. As you move up, you have the Lord Overpass that's going to be redone based on the wishes of the council. And then going forward from there, the next intersection, all surrounding the Hamilton Canal, have notable infrastructure. So you have considerable investment, some from the wisdom of this council with your votes, and also others from the state, like the MassWorks grants that have come in, and the $2 million MassWorks grant that will provide a widening of that Thorndike Street stretch right in front of Thorndike Place, will provide a left turn lane going onto Highland, left turn lane going into the train station, and some turning coming in and out of the Lapoli project. Next, going down to the Hamilton Canal Innovation Area in Jackson Street, we have the Adden Building, which has added 75 market rate rental units down there by Wynn Development. Wynn is a premium product, and I remember when they were moving to go in there, I think they were sold out on the day they cut the ribbon and made the announcement. So that's how popular their proposals are down there and their units. Also at 110 Canal Place, that's been occupied for some time by M2D2 from the university. On the top 2 floors, the bottom 2 floors were vacant for some time. Trinity has now come in with a letter of intent to fill those other 2 floors. So I think it's significant in the conversation about, what is the right, mix and what gets attracted, to see that at this point, 110 Canal Place can be fully filled. And I think that's a good harbinger of things to come. Contributing factors to some of these successes, when we're hearing now from the professional developers and the professional brokers, which is encouraged for good dialogue by the manager, one of the things that they're saying is that Lowell has a specific advantage in good amenities that we can offer employees. And as the workforces have gotten younger and the companies have to attract the professional millennials and the workforce of that age, it's very important that around the workplace that they be able to have some amenities. So if they're in a remote location, you see the employer having to build within the company structure or on a campus setting some of these amenities. But Lowell has a leg up on that. So it's really been recommended to us that we use the amenities of being close to the downtown, having, these other types of things that take place at Lowell, like a good art scene, quality of life things, the new lighting of the canals, the Vitality Project. All of those things have added an appeal that I think gives Lowell a good heads up. Other things that are contributing factors to success, of course, is having a perception of safety, that employees can come into work, have easy access, get there, and that they're going to be safe coming and going. And I think Lowell has done a really good job of doing that. This ease of and access of transportation, you know, when we talk about coming in off the expressway and all of that, we were surprised when we talked to some business owners that, because I think we're Lowellians and we do it every day, we think that, you know, we don't think too much about it, but it can be a negative to someone who first comes in and looking for a site and looking to expand. So I think this combination of good infrastructure improvements, and as it comes up Thorndike Street and comes down through Lord Overpass, will prove to correct that ease of access and make that a lot more business friendly. I want to say again, just to emphasize that the pro-business position of the administration and this council and the timely responses that it receives back throughout the administration, the inspectors and all that deal with them, has been noted to us to be very attractive and a real incentive for coming into the city of Lowell. And the other piece that we can say to this for a contributing factor is that through your votes and your wisdom here in terms of supporting some of the neighborhoods, we've done some extensive improvements last year up in Couple Square, this year slated for Bridge Street coming in the spring, and also some improvements that have taken place in the Gorham Street area. Also, it makes life easier for the residents, better quality of life, but it also helps specifically the small businesses and the ability to come in and out of the workplace in a timely fashion. Lastly, I'd like to discuss some of the things that are in our control and some of them that are not in our control that are always factors, of course, when we contribute and we look to making successes for developing our businesses. First is the zoning. That is something that's in our control, and we've reached out and not only used the experts that we have and our employee in the city, but we've also reached out to like Smart Growth America that did special technical assistance for us on the Complete Streets program. They're going to offer some other advice to us coming up shortly on maybe some zoning changes that we could make. And we also use the resources of Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. They recently have some zoning recommendations before you having to do with Upper Merrimack Street on that. Also, in something that's developing is being just called here within the city administration, the incentive toolbox. You have wisely used TIFs in order to attract companies, most notably in the Cross Point area. Programs at the state. I want to mention the LDFC locally. Very important to have the private sector partner with the city on all of these projects and really work shoulder to shoulder, you know, coming together and getting good prospects, but also figuring out all the details that make success. I have to compliment them very much. And then at the state level, mass development, that is a big part in making things work, and the SBA loan program. There was also a software back in 2014, a software exemption that we actually use from time to time, and we think that will be attractive in creating opportunity for commercial development in the future. I'd also like to say in terms of the regional resources and uses of that in our control, we're able to deal with organizations like Middlesex 3 Coalition. And this is important because some of our neighborhoods, as well as some of the workforce development issues, really structure around transportation of employees. And most recently, we've heard that there's a pocket of employees, over 300, that's needed down in the Burlington area. So they've been trying to access some of our residents for that. We find that also duplicated over in the Fort Devens area, that there are big established manufacturing plants that are looking for a good workforce. So for us to be able to work uniquely with some companies that work on the logistics for providing transportation and trying to time these with other transportation areas has been very important. And that's something that I think is in our control and we work with effectively. Things that are out of our control, however, with which we contend all the time is the market rates and the pressures. You know, we tend to be somewhat reactive because we want to know where the trends are going, but we have to be reactive to that. The escalating rates of Boston That's not in our control, but we try and make that a plus for us because we become cost-effective here, and we've heard many individuals have purchased residential property here that say, you know, it's wonderful, they get twice the space at half the cost that they might in a Cambridge or a Boston. One of the things that's out of our control is, you know, shortages of good commercial space and open land. When we compete against other communities, we compete against large campuses. They are able to offer campuses that are available for development. Highway gridlock and many competing types of projects that can lure companies away from your city is something too that we deal with. So I would say that in a nutshell is what we have, and I'd be happy to answer any
Mr.
questions.
Mr. Coughlin, one of the questions, I think the essence of the motion was to ascertain whether, in a plain sense, more businesses moving in than are moving out. That's, you know, that when people see a business go out, I mean, there's a concern, a business is leaving the city. I mean, there is a natural order of things that some businesses will succeed, some won't. But I think what we're looking at is how is it one step forward, two steps backwards, or is it two steps forward, one step backward? Or
Well,
three steps forward and one
it's-
step backward?
It's always step
Or
forward, no steps
or no
backwards.
backward steps. I mean, how do you ascertain that? What would your answer be for that?
Well, I think there is significant progress and significant movement going forward. I think that you can feel a momentum in the city now for development and the attractiveness, the calls, just since I've been employed here with the city that come into the DPD for individuals looking for space and looking for land and looking to move into different parts of the city is really increased, I would say, dramatically. I would also say in terms of the downtown, when you have you know, a business that moves out downtown, the ground floor is rapidly being filled. We have other sections of the city, like Couple Square, where all the top floors are also filled. But in the city of Lowell, both in the downtown, for the ground floor and the upper floors, since in the last 2 years, we've had a 2% drop in vacancy rate. So I think that's progress in the right direction, and it is always a challenge to fill the upper floors, but you have to work with the property owners, and you have to work with the businesses downtown in order to make that attractive.
Okay, Councilman Mendoza?
I'm all set, thank you.
Council Larry?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.